All right, Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elected nation of Israel. All right. This is Aratazah from the Great Millstone GMS Atlanta Camp with another video. And this video is going to be a another overview, all right, of Ezekiel chapter 38. But in this overview video, a breakdown, whatever word you want to use, all right, I'm gonna deal with verses 10 on down to the end, all right, because we pretty much, I mean, you brothers have done numerous videos on Ezekiel 38. It's a very popular chapter dealing with end time prophecy, World War III, and the conflict with America in Russia, all right, and also Israel as well. You know, going into World War III, all right, the different wars, how it's all blowing up and coming to that end point, okay, where eventually Gog and Magog, which is Russia identified in this chapter, is going to come against, all right, Babylon, all right, which is America, with the other nations, all right, such as your the Persians, which is Iran. It mentions Ethiopia and Gomer, which I believe is Turkey, so forth and so on. So I really wanted to deal with verses 10 on down to the end to just cover that, because whenever we do these breakdowns on this chapter, we tend to just hit verses 1 to like I believe it's the right 1 to maybe about the 10th verse, because that really hits the main point, you know. But as Apostle said in one video, he says it's good to know how to break down the whole chapter and know how to expound on it. So in this video, I'm going to attempt through the Spirit to go into this, all right? And I'm going to start here, Ezekiel chapter 38, and verses, I'm start verse 10. It says, it says, thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And this is speaking of the Russians, Gog and Magog. And it says, verse 11, thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, which this land is referring to not only, it's really speaking of two places. It's speaking of the United States of America, and it's speaking of the land of Israel. All right. And it says, I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. All right. So that's America. America is all right. It's like it's a land where people basically dwelling safely. They don't have a care in the world, and that's why the scriptures say, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. That's the state that the people are living in now. They're living in a sense of peace and safety, and they think that America can't get touched. It's also the land of Israel, all right? They have a mighty military, and then they have the U.S. military backing them. So these are two places that where the people are dwelling safely, all right? So it says, verse 12, it says, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. And that's a key point where it says, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, because America is a melting pot of different nations. All right, you have all the nations gathered here in America. All right, it's a melting pot. So it says, verse 13, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish with all the young lions thereof shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a spoil, or to take a prey, excuse me, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? And this is what these nations are going to basically say to Russia. And when you look up Sheba and Dedan, the emergence of Tarshish, these are areas that are in the Middle East, all right, in that Saudi Arabia, Mediterranean area, all right. So it says, verse 14 says, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, uh, thus saith the Lord power, in that day when my people Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it? All right. And primarily we're the Israelites. Now you do have Israelites that's actually in the land of Israel right now. All right. But it's nowhere as many as it is here in America. So primarily the Israelites are dwelling here in Babylon the Great. All right. Even though they're scattered throughout the world. All right. Throughout the four corners of the earth, the bulk of our people are here in Babylon. All right. Which is America. 15, it says, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army, right? Russia's getting ready to go to war, all right? And this great company and a mighty army, when you read up in the chapter, it listed, all right? It says the Persians, which is Iran. Actually, let's just jump up and read them real quick. It lists a few of them, all right? When you read verse 5, it says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer, and all the bands of the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. So Russia's going to be deep. All right, they're going to have crazy numbers. Their army is going to be... Now, the Russian military is already big, so imagine when you combine it with all those other nations. All right? Which is why those nations we read off, with Sheba, Dedan, they're gonna be they're gonna be fearful, all right? They're gonna be thinking Russia's gonna be coming against them because they're so deep, they're so mighty, which various parts, of the Middle East is gonna be destroyed, primarily the land of Israel, which is gonna go into that. All right. So let me go to verse 16. Jumping back down, it says, and thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days. All right, latter days means the last days, which we're in right now. So it's talking about the end times. All right, the Russians coming against the land of Israel. Okay, it says as a cloud to cover the land, which essentially is that's going into the missiles. All right, they're going to cover the land. All right, with those thermonuclear missiles. I remember if you watch the movie 300, if you remember the part where the Persian messenger came, that was a guy that got his arm chopped off with the sword, and when he was about to die, he was telling him, look, the Persians is going to come down on you with 1,000 armies. And he said, our arrows are going to blot out the sun. In other words, our arrows are going to cover the land, And we know that the modern day arrow is the missiles. Just like we read about the day of the Lord. I think it's what's that, Zephaniah 1 and 14, which we might just read that real quick. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 14. It says the great day of the Lord is near. It is near. It hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord, and the mighty men shall cry there bitterly. 15 says, that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Now, how's that thick darkness and the clouds going to come? They're going to come, well, first and foremost, by the way of the so-called UFOs. All right. You're talking about thousands and upon thousands of chariots, or what the people call so-called UFOs, covering the sky. Because they also, that's another metaphor. They're also known as clouds too in the scriptures. So they're going to be covering the sky, and then you have the 200 million missiles, all right, that's going to cover the sky. That's going to block out the sun, all right, like I referenced from the movie 300. So it's going to be dark, literally, because the sun's going to be blocked out from the missiles in those chariots, all right. So going back here to Ezekiel chapter 38, just to finish off where we were. This is verse verse 16 again. It says, "And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land." All right. So that's how we know that the land of Israel is going to be destroyed. All right. That land has to be cleansed because heathens are dwelling there in that land. All right. And it tells you that when you jump back to Ezekiel, is it Ezekiel 36? Right, Ezekiel 36:1. "Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, Ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord power, because the enemy have said against you, Aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession." See? So the heathen, which is the enemy, the enemy nations, they have our land in their possession. It tells you further in verse 3, "Therefore prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord power, because they have made you desolate and swallow you up on every side, that they might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are an infamy of the people." You see that? So the see that? So the heathens have our land in their possession. Matter of fact, let me read this, verse 5. "Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy I have spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea." So it gets specific on what particular heathen has that land. All right, Idumea, which is Edom. It says, "And against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast out for a prey." All right. So the heathens are over in that land. So that land has to be bombed to hell and back and purified, man. Okay. So it says, 16 again, "And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land, and it shall be in the latter days." Now, as I mentioned, the bulk of our people, like I said, you do have our people over in that land, but it's not as much as here in America. So the Russians, just as much as they're going to come against that land over there, they're going to come against America too. All right. And a lot of you Israelites here in America are going to be destroyed in that thermonuclear war that Russia's going to pop off. All right. Along with the mother nations. It says, reading on, "And I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O God, before their eyes." So when the Most High used them to bring judgment down, when he used these Russians to bring judgment, the Most High's name is going to be magnified in the earth. 17, it says, "Thus saith the Lord power, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days, many years, that I would bring thee against them?" All right. Yeah. So the prophets, they prophesied about this particular event, about these times, man. And the prophets are here on earth again, prophesying about these times that's going to come speedily, shortly. Okay. Verse 18, "And it shall come to pass that at the same time when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord power, that my fury shall come up in my face." For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. All right. So the Lord is going to speak. All right. He going to stop speaking through the prophets, and he going to start speaking with that fire, man. See? It says, in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. See? So you going to learn. You going if you ain't hear the Most High through the mouthpiece of the prophets, through the mouth of the prophets, if you didn't take heed and take heed to the warnings and all that, oh yeah, you gonna listen when the Most High start dropping missiles on you, man. All right, then you gonna know that the Most High spake of these things, man. And it says, surely in that day there should be a great shaking in the land of Israel. Now you know that's nuclear war, because anything dealing with the shaking and earthquake, and that's pursuing the Isaiah 24, when it says the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. All right, the earth was removed out of her place like a cottage. That's those nuclear bombs hitting that land, man, breaking it up. 20, it says, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, meaning the governments, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. All right. Shaking also represents a trembling, because you're gonna have still men on the earth, all right, scattered throughout, that are gonna be alive, and they're gonna witness. They're gonna be watching these things on TV, and they're gonna be shaken up. They're gonna tremble at the might of the Most High, while Yahweh Shai. All right, and the governments are gonna be thrown down. 21, it says, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord power. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. Okay, which the ultimate sword is, again, the thermonuclear missiles, weapons. All right. 22, all right, just to finish up here, it says, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Now, what is that referring to? Thermonuclear missiles. All right, missiles. It mentions the great hailstones. That's the same thing that the Apostle John saw on the island of Patmos. I believe that's Revelations. Damn, I can't remember the chapter. Is that Revelations? Is it 15? I can't remember the chapter. But he likened the vision he seen with the missiles. He likened it unto hail. All right, what it said, the hail about the weight of a talent or something like that. You brothers know what I'm referring to. All right, and it says rain. All right, so this is a metaphor for the thermonuclear missiles that land over there. All right, it says last verse is 23. It says, thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eye of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord. All right, so the scriptures say the Lord is known in judgment, I believe it says. All right, so when the Lord brings us down, his name is going to be magnified. All right, and this is a prophecy that's going to be fulfilled, a very popular prophecy and chapter that even, these biblical scholars, these Edomite scholars, they even go into it. But more so, we here at Great Millstone, beginning with the apostles and elders, we always harp on this chapter and this event, and it's brewing up. Even dealing with Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. Brothers have put certain links and articles out how there's tension growing with that. So this prophecy is coming to pass, man. Okay, where America is going to be destroyed, all right, with missiles, and the land of Israel is going to be destroyed with missiles, all right, because it's overran by heathens, and that place got to be totally cleansed, man, before we could step foot over there and establish the kingdom under our Lord, all right. So I just wanted to just go into the latter half of this chapter Okay. Lord willing, this was an edifying video. All right. Giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Shem Yahushai by Shem Rakak Dash. And Lord willing, to the next video. Shalom.